Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. We've got a lot to cover in today's episode, including Joey Logano offering a strong response to the age-old question of are NASCAR drivers athletes, the first woman in a Cup car since 2017 and her first impression after turning laps, Kevin Harvick's harsh words for NASCAR and that race. It was an entertaining day in the desert, and it included a wild finish that resulted in one Joe Gibbs Racing driver winning for a third consecutive time, and his teammate going absolutely ballistic about finishing second. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Friday and drivers meeting with the media. First up is Katherine Legge and her mouth, which hilariously enough was one reason Mark Martin said he liked her. Take a listen.
And I probably shouldn't use these words, but I'm going to anyway. I said, I'm going to fly under the radar for my first Cup race, right? Nobody's going to notice. We'll just be in the back. We'll chill. We'll get NASCAR permission. And then somebody was like, it's International Women's Day on Saturday. And I thought, oh, shit. There's no way. There's no way I'm flying under the radar.
I bring this specific clip up because of what she said during her first practice run. More on that in a bit. Also during the driver interviews on Friday, Joey Logano was asked if NASCAR drivers get enough credit for being athletes. Here's what he had to say.
The fact that they even ask us is a bit ridiculous. In my opinion, right? It's how you want to define an athlete, right? And, in the same way that if you give me a basketball, I'm not going to be that great with it, is the same way you put an NBA player in a NASCAR race car, and they're not going to be that great either, right? So are you going to tell me now an NBA player is not an athlete because they can't drive a race car? Probably not. Right, so then why would you call me not an athlete? Why would you even be in the conversation? I don't get that. Right, I think when people are competing at a high level, at the very top with the amount of pressure that we all deal with, and not to mention the physical strains that it takes to drive these race cars these days, right, for a long period of time in tough conditions, it's kind of hard to say we're not. But it's an uneducated question from people that don't understand our sport, is what it is.
What was interesting is Logano and others were asked that same question before the Daytona 500. I bring it up just to confirm that they do get asked this question more than a few times each year. And according to Logano, it's by folks who aren't educated on the sport. I have to agree, and I would go so far as to say NASCAR drivers should be held in even higher regard and given more respect than athletes in stick and ball sports, because of their willingness to literally put their lives on the line every time they strap inside a car. Moving on to practice and qualifying and back to Katherine Legge. I was interested in hearing what she had to say over her team radio during practice, and these were her first words after her first practice run.
Okay. Holy shit.
She was understandably overwhelmed for her first time in a Cup car. Unfortunately, there was more where that came from. During the Amazon Prime Fox broadcast coverage of practice and qualifying, I thought Kyle Busch fans might want to hear what Clint Bowyer said about the number 8 car in 2025.
He's going to put RCR in victory lane this year. I think he'll be one. He's knocking on the door. His confidence is high. His attitude's right. He's got set on killing. He's going to get done. Watch.
We'll see what happens, but it's hard not to believe Rowdy won't be in victory lane at some point this season. Also of note from qualifying, Ty Gibbs qualified 34th ahead of only Cody Ware, John Hunter Nemechek, and Legge. More on his struggles in a few. Moving on to later in the day on Saturday in the Xfinity Series race. It was another heartbreaker for Justin Allgaier, who absolutely dominated and led a race-high 130 laps, but didn't get a good final restart and finished 5th. I'm going to reserve judgment for what happened at the end, but I'm genuinely curious what you guys thought about Aric Almirola, in his words, using up Alex Bowman racing to the finish line. Fair or foul? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Moving on to Sunday and Sunday's pre-race show on Fox. There were a couple things that caught my attention. The first one being that Fox revealed Austin Cindric respectfully declined an interview to talk about his penalty. Why? I know he talked about it with reporters in the media center on Saturday, but why couldn't he face the cameras and share with the national television audience? I think when any driver declines an interview after being involved in some type of controversy, it just makes them look bad. That's the case here. While Cindric was mum on the topic, Kevin Harvick was not. Take a listen to what Happy had to say about it.
I mean, this is an awful call. Now we don't know exactly where we stand. And whether you're going 35 miles an hour or 135 miles an hour, should have been suspended.
Good for him. But that wasn't the only pre-race topic I thought that was interesting. After my video last week on Ty Gibbs struggling in 2025 being an extension of how he finished in 2024, the Fox team tackled the same subject.
Well, I'm concerned too. Okay. I'm highly concerned too. And I think right now, you know, as we saw that little slump as we got towards the end of last year, that's carried over into this year. And now they just need to right the ship. But he's got a whole new team this year. They're almost starting over.
Fair.
The Phoenix race certainly didn't help Gibbs's case. Speaking of, let's get to Sunday's race. I was watching the camera of Legge and saw her spin out on the 4th lap. Not the best start, but she did manage to keep it clean. The bigger news item from that first stage is what happened after the next caution and restart. NASCAR nabbed Joey Logano for a restart violation for going below the yellow line before crossing the start-finish line. Unsurprisingly, the 3-time Cup Series champion was not happy about it.
I mean, geez, I mean, it had to be, if it was at all, it was freaking nothing. That's ridiculous.
It was certainly a close call. Also on that restart, we got to see the first use of the red option tires, when Ryan Preece's team opted to go with them. And boy did it make a difference as he zipped through the field. I don't know about you, but I love this varying strategy because it totally gives a team that is lagging behind with an opportunity to gamble and go with the softer tires and gain ground. But as we saw later, it can hurt them when they don't have any more tires and the rest of the field does. Preece restarted 24th, and when the stage concluded had moved all the way up to 3rd. William Byron was the stage winner and came up just short of lapping Ty Gibbs to close out the stage. Byron was followed by Reddick, Preece, Christopher Bell, and Ryan Blaney. To start the second stage, more teams opted to go with the option tire, like Ross Chastain, who started 34th after a pit road speeding penalty. In 14 laps, the Trackhouse racing car had moved all the way up to 10th. Stage 2 also featured something at Phoenix that we don't often see, the big one. There was a big crash on lap 99 that involved 7 cars, including Chase Briscoe, who got a little air, as well as Carson Hocevar, Justin Haley, and Brad Keselowski. In the rest of stage 2, Joey Logano went with his second set of options and moved to the point. The only question was, could Christopher Bell, on the prime tires, catch him? The answer was yes. The number 20 passed the number 22 with 8 laps to go and went on to win the stage. He was followed by Logano, Byron, Blaney, and Reddick. During the stage break, Kyle Busch made an interesting remark about the top finishers.
Championship 4 kind of day up front, huh? Yeah, a lot of the same characters.
Moving on to the third and final stage, and as expected, most of the cars went with one of their 2 sets of option tires. Unfortunately for Daniel Suarez, who had finished 8th in stage 2, his solid run came to an end when Katherine Legge got loose after making contact with Josh Berry, and the number 99 car had nowhere to go. Moments after the incident, the Trackhouse driver voiced his frustration. A few laps after the subsequent restart, Kyle Busch, who had run inside the top 15 the entire day, expressed his frustration with his car. Take a listen.
What did he say? Tighter, looser, what the fuck?
I couldn't help but laugh that his spotter repeated verbatim what he had to say. As the laps dwindled, cars began having issues. Bubba Wallace had a brake rotor explode. His 2311 Racing teammate Tyler Reddick had steering issues. Take a listen to what Reddick had to say before he came down pit road.
Really, just tell these guys not to jump till I'm stopped. I don't know where this thing's gonna go.
That's heads up for the driver, warning his crew that he wasn't sure where his car was going and he didn't want to hurt anyone. But it wasn't just the Toyotas having issues. Ryan Blaney joined in on the fun with a blown engine.
Stay low here, stay low. We just blew up. Yeah, there she goes. Great fucking work.
In the final 20 laps, it appeared to be a race between Bell, Hamlin, Larson, Josh Berry, and Chris Buescher. And then with 8 laps to go, Ty Gibbs' day came to an end as he was a victim of another brake rotor exploding. That set us up for the final restart, and man, what a restart it was. After one trip around the mile-long track, Hamlin was the first to take the white flag just ahead of his JGR teammate, Bell. but everyone knew it was far from over. On that final trip, Hamlin and Bell raced side by side, and going into turn 3, it was still unclear who was going to win. Coming out of turn 4, Kyle Larson gave the number 20 car a little boost, as he would describe it later in victory lane, just before the finish line, and it was enough to edge out his JGR teammate and claim his 3rd consecutive win. Moments after finishing 2nd, Hamlin was understandably unhappy.
God damn it! Fuck! Hey, bud. Good try, man. Great effort on everybody's part. Fucking ran shit.
Conversely, Bell was ecstatic after earning his 3rd win in just the 4th race of the season, and he made a little history in the process, according to Racing Insights, by making the first last lap pass to the track in Cup Series history, or 58 races. There was also another bit of ugly history made by Joey Logano, who with Sunday's 13th place result became the first defending Cup Series champion to not earn a top 10 in his first 4 races the following season. The Team Penske driver finished 35th at Daytona, 12th at Atlanta, and 24th last week at Coda. And the last thing I want to say about the race and the weekend of races is something I think all of you will agree on as being one of your favorite things from the weekend as well. And it's something that didn't happen. For the first time this season, there wasn't a major controversy with NASCAR officiating. Sure, Logano might like to have a word regarding his early restart violation, but if you'll recall, we've been talking about cautions being thrown and not being thrown and track limits, specifically turn 6 at Coda. Brad Moran or Elton Sawyer have apologized at some point for officiating mistakes in the first 3 weekends, but there will be nothing to apologize for this weekend, and I'm so thankful for it. Nice job, NASCAR. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot, and I want to get your thoughts. First, tell me what you thought about Logano's comments on Friday about drivers being athletes. Second, from qualifying, do you agree with Boyer that Busch gets back to victory lane in 2025? And from the pre-race show, what did you think of the comments about Ty Gibbs and his recent struggles? If you're a fan of the number 54, are you concerned now after yesterday, his 3rd finish of 25th or worse to start the season? And what about that race? You know what I think about the option tires. What did you think about them? And finally, let me know your thoughts about Christopher Bell winning his 3rd race in a row. How many races do you think he wins this year? I'm putting the over-under at 6. Thanks again for supporting the channel and checking out the latest video. I really, really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.